to this space. So first of all, can we have each of the panelists, and I'm not going to do it because I want to save time and move quickly. Each of the panelists, lightning round, something interesting about yourself, and kind of your company, and then we'll come back again, and we're going to have about 5 minutes to explain what you do, what your business does, and then we're going to have some conversation points when we get to Q&A. Okay, why don't we start on the far end with Greg?
Hey everybody, my name is Greg Ness. My business is kind of diverse. I've done everything from create a cat blanket to one of the world's largest solar energy companies, and as part of that, I just love tech, and I got into blockchain about 2 years ago. And my project I'm talking today is called King's Grant, which is, I guess, best described as kind of the wiki of property historical information.
Hello, my name is Erik Meltzer. I'm the co-founder of Plutus Properties, and we are a crypto-friendly real estate investing platform, so buying real-world real estate with cryptocurrency.
Good afternoon, everybody. Standing room only. This is great. Big crowd. I am so happy to be here because this is about real estate and blockchain, not the mining stuff, not other stuff, but blockchain and real estate. I have a little company called Power of Chain Consultancy LLC, and we provide consulting and business development services for startups in the space since 2017, which means we'll take a startup, advise them through launch from 6 months to a year, get funding, and we also do strategic business development, which means we sort of help them get business with the real estate community on the other side, which would be anywhere from land registry to transactional to the really cool stuff, tokenization, and now as we're going to really get into in a few minutes, NFTs in the future, metaverse, et cetera, et cetera. Interesting point for me, I've never been in Charleston.
Welcome. Great. Now we're going to go to Greg, who's going to use the PowerPoint slides and give you a little more on King's Grant.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. So really, the presentation is called NFTs from Hype to Utility. And this evolution has happened rapidly, just like the Web3 evolution generally in the last year and a half. So my project is called King's Grant. And like I said, we consider it almost like the wiki of historical property information. And being an NFT project that's been under development since the nascent stages of NFTs, we've had to sort of evolve our strategy over time. And like most NFT projects, you start out just selling PFPs and pretty pictures, and then you kind of have to adapt because the market is so flooded. If you look on OpenSea, it's just overwhelming. Same with many of the other platforms. And so we were able to try to figure that out fairly quickly and kind of pivoted to the utility side over a year ago too. And so as a legacy of that whole component, like many of sort of that generation of NFT projects, you have to sort of create almost like a gamification aspect just to make it stand out and kind of get your audience engaged, get that network effect going, especially if you're marketing on typical servers like Discord, on Telegram, Twitter, and the like. And so we basically recreated Charleston history in the form of a story about the new Lord Proprietors. And the history of Charleston generally was established by 8 Lord Proprietors. So we pivoted and took some of the prominent ecosystem founders. Obviously, you got Charles Hoskinson and Anatoly from Solana as good examples, and made that gamification aspect and did a buy-sell exchange in the smart contracts. So that was kind of iteration 1 of the project. Oops, sorry. Just by way of example, like I mentioned earlier, it started out as just simply taking photos of homes around the peninsula, trying to hustle, sell NFTs just because we liked them and we thought they were beautiful. And that turned into this just juggernaut that we have today. And during that phase, we started hearing about some of these projects, for instance, like Proppy and the other 20, 30 other ones that are doing sort of syndication type structures, and said, hey, that's pretty cool. Let's kind of tack on our work and all of our metadata with our thousands and thousands of Charleston property NFTs and see if we can incorporate that aspect. We quickly found out that just wasn't available. Some of those ecosystems really hadn't done their coding. They sort of oversold, overhyped, so there really wasn't that utility and functionality that we can kind of port onto. So that's where we kind of pivoted again and said, hey, let's create a more specific, narrow use case that would concentrate on a different aspect of real property. And what we found out was, and you guys know this probably well, if you look in any register of deeds office, or you get a title commitment from Chicago or whomever. It's very limited in nature unless you order kind of a longer form search. And most of that information really isn't stored well in the ROD. It's located in a kind of a dispersed network off-chain in various repositories, ranging from libraries to archival rooms. And so we would often we'd go to these places and pull out information on various parcels, and we'd sit down with women named Betty that were in their 70s and would say, what are you guys doing? You know, and I was just, give me the microfilm, let's do this, and pulled out all that data and started really trying to accumulate and figure out what to do with it. It's so vast. And so luckily, the blockchain space evolves very quickly. And we found ways to essentially take all that really cool on-chain, off-chain data that's sort of sitting below that iceberg with any parcel and figuring out ways to kind of incorporate that and putting in governance structures through the form of DAOs and various other compatibility add-ons. So as part of that platform, you know, when you dial down your project and really try to dial in the utility and the tokenomics behind it, you have to figure out who your audience is. And our audience, of course, is, you know, real estate developers, libraries, you know, historical enthusiasts and the like. And so we spent a ton of time just sitting down with each of them and trying to figure out what's important. And said, well, what would you do if we had a way to take all your data, you know, validate it, make it usable? What would you need? And you know, the answers we got up with was some degree of control, so governance, traceability, the ability to you know, monitor for compliance with state, local, and internal policies, and also to create a mechanism where they're being actually compensated for that data. Oh, shoot. Okay. So just going through it real quick, you know, again, you know, crypto wallets are essentially becoming data wallets. You're seeing much more utility in the form of deep form on and off chain metadata. You're seeing tethering to some of the protocols existing out there, so a few examples of wallets that we've become compatible with, all the way to leveraging some of the work done by groups like Ocean Protocol. Yeah, it's not working.
Maybe you can. There we go.
There it goes. All right, so if I had an infinite amount of time, I'd kind of walk you through the specifics, but this kind of shows an example. You know, we've not only taken an NFT, but we've also created a token in the form of reward. So effectively, that's the way that the data providers are compensated. And you know, effectively, different amounts of tokens are awarded based on the quality of the data and the frequency that they're interacting with the ecosystem. You know, I've had this conversation a couple times today. You know, especially a lot of the prop tech companies that are just now starting out. They immediately assume, hey, let's force this form of mass adoption, have everything on chain, have all the transactions done through tokens on exchanges. But I always tell people, you know, like I said, just dial it down. You know, solve a specific sort of isolated use case, and the more and more use cases that are created to solve certain problems, in the aggregate, that's going to lead to mass adoption. So that's a fantastic example. Again, it's all about education at this stage. For any project developer, I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, go out there, hire a product manager if you can, get out there, know your customer, and just educate. That's the only way to go.
Thank you, Greg. Erik.
Great. So, hey again, so my name is Erik Meltzer, and I'm the co-founder of Plutus Properties. So we came about to help people with cryptocurrencies to get real-world real estate without having to sell your crypto or pay capital gains taxes to Uncle Sam while you get a cash-flowing property that will create multi-generational wealth. You might wonder, how the heck is that possible? Not paying cap gains, hodling, and getting real estate? Well, a couple of things here I want to talk about. Number one is the benefit of real estate investing. So real estate investing, real estate investors get a huge amount of tax benefits. So paying interest on a loan, the maintenance of the home, the property management, all of these are write-offs from one's income tax, one's IRS filing every year. And so the idea is when someone gets a property, you can rent it out long-term, or you can rent it out as a vacation rental. And the benefit of doing vacation rentals is you don't have to deal with problem tenants, basically. You're able to have people come in and out for short periods of time. You have basically housekeeping that keeps the property in good order. People only want to stay there if the property is well maintained. And so by doing a vacation rental, for example, whether it's Airbnb or Vrbo or another platform of sorts, you are having the tenants pay off your mortgage while you get to enjoy tax benefits. And so here's where it comes in with the crypto side of things. So there are actually DeFi solutions as well as crypto mortgage lenders where they will give you what's called a crypto collateralized loan. What that means is, in the case of one partner of ours, let's say that there is a house where, let's say it's a $500,000 house. With real estate investing, you need to put 25% down. It's not like a primary residence where you can put 3.5% down, but investment, it's 25% down. The way it works is you would then send your crypto of choice in, and there are solutions on the Algorand blockchain. There are crypto mortgage lenders like Bank Social and Milo, and there's Aber. There's a few more out there. Basically, what happens is your 25% down that you can pay in crypto is held in an escrow account, and so there isn't actually a sale event that takes place. And so after acquiring the property, the mortgage will be paid down by your renters, and when the mortgage is paid off in full, your cryptocurrency is returned to you, the buyer, and you can use that same pool of cryptocurrency to acquire house after house after house, and continually accumulate or increase your wealth by using that same pot of cryptocurrency without paying capital gains taxes. The other thing that we are really excited about in the new year, we are looking into fractionalized real estate investing, where we lower the barrier of entry for real estate. So we are looking, we are in the process of creating a platform where someone can invest, whether it's $100, $200, $1,000, more, as a part of the price of the real estate. And then, depending how much you put in, you share in the profits. And so that way, even someone with just a little bit of cryptocurrency will be able to get into the real estate game and get some rewards, and be able to get their crypto returned to them long term. And so I don't want to take up too much more time, but yeah, please.
Who's going to manage the property if we have, like, let's say, 50, 100 people sharing the property?
Sure, great question. So that would be one of the services that we would provide is property management. So that would be, so of course, for facilitating the transaction, there would be a facilitation fee for the listing of the property, and then we would also take care of the property management. So if we have, whether it's an apartment building where you have a large pool of people, then we would basically outsource. We would basically handle the property management. Whether it's a small thing that we could just handle ourselves, or if it's a large building, we would then go into contract with a local property management company. Great question.
We're going to get to more questions. Let's just let John go, and then we're going to go straight to questions. John.
Well, I have a couple questions for you all. How many people here invest in cryptocurrency? Okay. And how many people here have invested in STOs backed by real estate assets? That's what I thought. Nobody. Okay. Let me give you a real quick overview of what this market's about. And this is Erik's company is a prime example of where this industry is heading with blockchain and tokenization, especially. Globally, the global market for commercial and residential real estate managed is $3.8 trillion. This is hard to. This is, for me, is hard to understand. But part of that, by bringing this up, is that, and people don't really realize this. It was a study done by an advisory firm that only 3% of the world's population has invested in that $3.8 trillion market. But 80% believe real estate is a good investment. Can you believe that? So you're gonna have a challenge finding investors, I think. Now, taking that study a little bit further, this company sort of forecasted that if 5% of that $3.8 trillion was tokenized, it would bring it over 5 years. It would bring us to about, I think about 1.8 trillion, $1.9 trillion of tokenized real estate. Startups are popping up left and right in this space. They are salivating to get a hold of this $1.9 trillion market, tokenization. And as I was talking to Mark earlier, my work started off out in land registry, county recorder's offices for blockchain, global land registries. Well, guess what? That's a really tough market to blockchain and real estate section to monetize. No one's doing it, really. There's a few countries. There's 2 counties in the United States doing it out of 3,200. So where is it going? The next big thing is transactional, A to Z to the close, and then hopefully at the end, we'll pull in the land registry and carry the deed onto the chain. But the hottest thing is tokenization, which is where most of my work is now. Tokenization, and then NFTs, and then the metaverse.
Thank you, guys. Okay, let's jump into interesting, provocative questions. And if you want, say your first name, your question, and we'll try to get as much Q&A. You can direct it towards the panel or towards the individual. Yes, in the back, and speak up.
My name is Sarah. I'm a CPA, and I'm trying to figure out how you are basically giving. I mean, okay, here's my first question. Who owns the deed basically when you are loaning money on a blockchain for Bitcoin as volatile as it has been in the past year?
Sure.
And then the second question is, how are you addressing the volatility, especially with dollar loans in the market?
Great question. So Plutus Properties is not the lender itself. We are essentially the hand holder. But the way that I can speak to one of our partners, the way that they are handling. So right now, Bitcoin's at 20K. Let's say that Bitcoin, is my mic on? Okay, great. So let's say that Bitcoin drops to 10K, for example. Well, the way that this one lender that we partner with works is, okay, it's a margin call. So you would have to, so you, as in you, the buyer, would have to deposit additional cryptocurrency into the escrow. But the interesting thing is, let's say, oh, shoot, Bitcoin's at 10K and I don't have enough Bitcoin to make the margin call. Well, in the case of this one lender, they will say, okay, we keep your Bitcoin, you keep the house. This lender has a very positive hypothesis for where crypto is going down the road, and it is really just a matter of parting ways with your Bitcoin, but you keep the house. But let's say that Bitcoin goes back up to 60, 70,000 where it was. After a 6-month seasoning period, 6 months into the mortgage, Bitcoin shoots up. Then the lender will send you the excess Bitcoin back so that so it basically equalizes where your loan began, or you can pay it off sooner.
Sarah, do you have a follow-up?
I mean, that's a lot of education for a lot of people who don't understand
Exactly.
what's going on. So
Yes.
I mean, for some people in this room that might make a lot of sense, but to the markets in general, I mean, even buying, it's a lot of stress buying a vacation home,
Yep.
and even like maintaining the management structure that you have going on
Yep.
with seems, a lot.
Sure. I mean, really, when we talk about the market, we are really focused on probably a younger generation that has already had
Wait,
crypto.
she's part of the younger generation.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, I deal with people in technology even
Sure.
who are like, what? They deal in ones and zeros. They don't deal with, in what, what markets do.
I think Greg and John want to jump in. This is a great question, Sarah, in terms of what segment of the market right now is even interested or capable of understanding this in education. So Greg and John.
Let me go real quick, because I think I have
yeah.
a partial answer to this, and Greg, I'll pass the baton over to you. For the first time last year, Q1, for the first time ever in the United States, the population of the United States reached over 50% for Gen X, Gen Z, and millennials. It's now at 58%, or 60% now. So Matt, think about it. Millennials, Gen Z, and Gen X constitute the majority of the population in the United States. So to your point back there, I think those are the investors that are going to be going over to his company and to other tokenization companies, because that's the generation that's buying crypto. Now, you all told me you buy crypto, but no one's buying STOs backed by real estate, but maybe you will. But I think that's going to be the market, because that generation, those three generations are on the bus. They're probably they'll be driving the bus soon, so that's going to be the market.
What's an STO?
Okay, great. That's a security token. Security token, a token backed by real estate or real assets. So we call them STOs. What's that?
All right, let's get some other people. Greg, why don't you respond real quick? And we got in the back here, and then Voyages, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, I would say, the bulk of a developer's dilemma right now is, yes, you can create all these just beautiful blockchain structures that solve X, Y, and Z, and you can have really creative smart contract protocols. But again, to your point, the consumer end user doesn't care about any of that, right? So we always say, 80% of what the customer cares about is, the user experience. So most of the time, if you have a really good project proponent with a good dev team, you won't even be aware that you're really kind of interacting on the blockchain. It's just a kind of a standard, almost a Web 2 looking interface. And so all that's just done sort of underneath the iceberg, essentially.
Far back corner. Go ahead and stand up. First name and speak loud. This is Eric. This is John.
John, awesome. So my question is directed to John.
Okay.
Some staggering real estate statistics.
Yeah.
On how there's a lot of untapped potential. So how do you believe, or how do you envision STOs and tokenized real estate can increase the accessibility and participation? And also, what do you think are some hurdles that the end user or the consumer, like me, who's not a accredited investor yet, what are some hurdles that the end user has to go through to participate in this area?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 quick points to this and pass it over to the other folks here, because let's see. To answer your first part, the fractionalization and tokenization of real estate is slicing and dicing a property into little pieces. There's a company down in Florida called Square Foot One. They sell a square foot for $1. You can buy property. You can spend $10 and buy 10 square foot tokens. It's a wide variety. So the idea with the tokenizations is to make available, especially commercial real estate, available to the masses. What they call the retail investors, like you were alluding to. Not the accredited and not the millionaires or the ones that are buying properties that don't need blockchain. They're spending $505 million a pop to purchase investment grade quality real estate. There's 2 challenges, and I think these 2 may dovetail into your question. And this is the challenge Eric's going to have, and all the others. Liquidity. Everybody's looking for liquidity by slicing and dicing these properties and slicing them into tokens. These tokens need to be traded. They need to be traded on a secondary market, like the stock market. But the secondary markets are not very well developed. They're not international. They're not integrated. So for the liquidity aspect, I think we're falling short right now, because there's really no place to do heavy trading. I mean, right now you really can't buy a bunch of STOs and trade them and sell them like you would like do stocks. The second part of that is who the investors are. And I kind of alluded to that already. Tokenization companies out there are having problems selling their tokens because the market really isn't developed. You're a perfect example. No one here has bought an STO, including me. So I hate to admit that, but so who are the investors? Who are out of the retail market? How are we going to reach them? What is his company going to do to reach these investors? So hopefully that kind of alludes to a couple of things you're talking about, or that you asked.
Yeah, the only quick thing I would say is yes, user experience, user interface is something that needs to be addressed by the blockchain community as a whole. It's not user friendly yet. It needs to be, and it's going to take time.
We only got 2 or 3 minutes. There is one generation that John didn't mention, and it's a generation of Voyage's daughter, who is a leading real estate agent here, who's 9 years old. I know that may not be your question, Voyages, but you wanted to ask something. What was it?
I did. It was along those lines. So hi everyone. My name is Voyages, like you think of voyage trips and what. I am a real estate agent here in Charleston, South Carolina, but I do have a 9-year-old daughter, and what got me even interested into real estate really was her playing Roblox. I don't know if anybody has kids, and the kids play Roblox a lot, but that's a virtual world as well. And literally, what does she do? She builds an avatar. She, builds her little house, or they are going into whatever building they're doing just to play games. But that allowed me to tap into other metaverses like Decentraland and Sandbox and Upland. So when you guys are talking about tokenizing real estate, that leads me into think, would your plan in regards to pulling the crypto into escrow be able to also be mimicked in the metaverse when parcels of land are being purchased?
Oh, gosh. That's no. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, it's a good question. Where our mind is with the metaverse in my company's perspective is, let's say that you have someone living in El Salvador who lives in Bitcoin Beach. They want to buy a house where we are listing. Well, they can put on their Oculus goggles and go and tour the house. But yeah, we're not like diving into a full-fledged metaverse experience. We're concerned with the real world with real money for real ROI.
We got 1 minute, really quick, Greg.
So just kind of adding on to that, so just a kind of a recent example of doing a transaction in the metaverse. We have another company called Metaverse Solar, which is effectively virtual solar farms that sell virtual energy to major corporations that have ownership in Decentraland and Sandbox. And as part of that, we had to create an escrow within the each metaverse and sort of convince them to obviously put it into that third party. And then once certain parameters were met, we released our NFT, which is a solar farm, and they released their cryptocurrency. How to tether that to the real world, I don't know yet. I think those guys are working on that.
Guys, thank you for great
Thank you.
questions. And last word, John? Want to say
No,
something?
just saying thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, let's give them a hand.